Welcome to our next unit, next method of analyzing indeterminate beams and frames. So today we are starting with flexibility method, which is a force method. So far the methods that we have seen, that is your slope deflection method, moment distribution method, stiffness method, they were displacement methods. That means we began with unknown displacements and first we tried to find unknown displacements using equilibrium equation. Here the approach is exactly opposite. We are not concerned with degree of kinematic indeterminacy, but we are concerned with degree of static indeterminacy. That is, whenever a problem is given to you, you first try to find out what is the number of redundant reactions, unknown support reactions which you cannot find using simple approach of equilibrium. That is, number of unknown reactions greater than 3, because in coplanar system we have 3 equilibrium equations. Using that redundant number of unknown reactions, we proceed to solving our problem. That is our flexibility method, or rather force method. So let's see what we have here in the introduction. We are discussing flexibility method, which is a force method, and our focus is redundant reactions, that is degree of static indeterminacy. Released determinate structure we create. The first step after identifying number of unknown reactions, we first have a released structure, a determinate structure which we analyze. And then to that released structure, we apply a unit force and we try to find out corresponding deformation or displacements, and then superposition equation eventually gives us the unknown support reactions. That is the last step I have written here. Superposition or compatibility equation we try to express and we get our unknown support reactions. This is of course a very brief introduction, and when we actually solve a numerical example, all these steps or all these fundamental ideas will become absolutely clear. Here I am trying to define what is flexibility first of all. So what is stiffness? We are aware. Stiffness is the action corresponding to unit displacement. This is exactly opposite. I have written it is displacement corresponding to unit action. So in stiffness, our displacement is unit and corresponding action is stiffness. In flexibility, our applied action, when I say force, I of course mean to say even movement. In general, action. So it is displacement corresponding to unit action, that is flexibility. For example, suppose we have a spring. Spring represents an elastic body. Our structural analysis is also elastic analysis. So for introduction to any elastic behavior, we usually prefer to take example of spring. So suppose we have a spring with original or natural length L, and I am applying an external deforming force P, because of which there is, let's say, elongation in the spring of delta L. Then what do we know? This delta L is proportional to P. More the P, more the elongation, of course within elastic limits. So I get P is equal to K times delta L, where K, the proportionality constant, is called as stiffness or spring constant. But if I express the same relation in inverse or using reciprocal, I am getting delta L is equal to 1 upon K into P. I am calling this 1 upon K as small f, and that is my flexibility. How is it my flexibility? just observe the same equation becomes delta L is equal to F into P. Now if P is 1, that is if we are discussing this applied force to be unit, then I get F is equal to delta L. And that is by definition I am calling this as flexibility because it is displacement corresponding to unit action. I repeat, displacement due to and corresponding to a unit action is called flexibility. This I have further expressed because this is something very well known to you from mechanics of materials. We remember delta L is equal to PL upon A. In a simple axial elongation case, delta L is equal to PL upon A, but our P has taken value 1. P is unity, so I am getting flexibility is equal to L upon A. This is nothing but axial flexibility, that is we are discussing axial loading of a member. Directly this will be applicable as it is in case of trusses where we have all the members as two force members. Now coming to our problems of continuous beams and frames where axial force or shear force are not predominant, but predominant action is flexural action, that is bending. So that is what I have written here, flexibility in flexure, in bending. So observe these examples. I have a simple cantilever beam and at the end I am applying a unit couple moment. I have written MB is equal to 1, magnitude is unity, and then whatever the slope, whatever is the rotation that the end B is undergoing, that theta B I am calling as flexibility. Try to understand, since my action is movement, my consequence, the displacement, I am considering as slope and not displacement. You are actually observing that BB prime, there is a deflection also, but that I am not defining as flexibility. Since action is couple, flexibility is the rotational displacement, that is slope. And similarly in my next diagram, if I am applying a unit force, then there is deformation in the beam. I am not defining the slope here as flexibility, but I am defining deflection delta B as flexibility. So often enough we have discussed this cause and consequence relation, and that I have also again repeated in my table below, that if load is force, corresponding displacement you have to consider as translational, what we call as deflection. So that is depicted here. This is force, corresponding displacement is deflection, and since the force is unity, that deflection I am calling as flexibility. Translational flexibility you may call it. And similarly, if couple moment is my load, then corresponding displacement is rotation or slope, and that is depicted in my first diagram. Since this is unity, this slope I am defining as flexibility. You may call it as rotational flexibility. But in our problem solving, in our analysis, we don't really go for terms like axial and rotational and translation. It is taken for granted that action is force, flexibility has to be deflection due to unit force. Action is unit couple movement, flexibility has to be rotation due to that unit couple movement. So I suppose what is flexibility, that is clear to you, and now I will solve one propped cantilever where degree of static indeterminacy is hardly 1, and I will try to introduce the technique of flexibility method followed by flexibility coefficients, so that we will be able to solve more involved problems with degree of static indeterminacy 2, 3, like that. So this is our prop cantilever with length L, modulus of elasticity E, and second moment of area of the cross section as I. Support A is fixed and support B is an exterior roller support. The cantilever is carrying a UDL of intensity small w over the entire span. Now obviously this is an indeterminate beam and we are supposed to analyze this beam using flexibility method, force method. So our focus is not displacements but the focus is unknown support reactions. That's why to begin with I have shown the reactions offered by the two supports. This is a roller support offering only one reaction RB, normal reaction, and this is a fixed support offering moment reaction MA and vertical reaction VA. Since it's a beam, we are ignoring any kind of horizontal reaction. It is not carrying any horizontal action. So usually when we go for solving a beam problem which is not apparently carrying any horizontal action or inclined action, then we simply ignore the reaction HA and we also ignore sigma Fx equal to 0 equation. So for equilibrium of a beam, whenever horizontal actions are not there, we simply say that there are only two equations of equilibrium available, sigma m equal to 0 and sigma fy equal to 0, sigma fx equation and horizontal action reactions we simply ignore. So yes, I have shown RB, I have shown VA, I have shown MA. This is my given configuration, given beam, and that is how I start analyzing my problem. Degree of static indeterminacy is equal to unknown support reactions 3 minus available equations of equilibrium 2 as I discussed just now is equal to 1. That is, degree of static indeterminacy is 1. There is one reaction which is redundant, which is unnecessary, which is additional, which is extra, in absence of which also there could have been equilibrium. Which one is redundant? Frankly speaking, the choice is with us. I can assume this as redundant, I can assume this as redundant, I can assume this as redundant. MA, VA, RB, any one I can assume as redundant. So let's say for analyzing this problem, I am assuming my redundant to be RB. Vertically upwards, presumably positive. Q is the notation we are using for redundant reactions. Now what is going to be my approach? Why am I defining this redundant? So that approach I will first make clear in my drawings. And then we will see what is all these notations and what are all these calculations. And since we have already discussed stiffness method, you will readily understand this superposition approach. What am I simply doing? I am going to assume that this particular configuration is made up of two configurations. That means again I am going for superposition. What am I doing? In my first diagram, I am removing this redundant reaction. That means this roller support I am completely removing. For the time being I am forgetting and I am converting this indeterminate beam into a determinate beam with loads. It is called as released beam. Why released? Because we are relieving it of one of the supports, one of the constraints and converting it into determinate beam. So this beam I am assuming to be made up of two beams. One is this, where all the loads are shown, and secondly this, where load is not shown but this reaction Q, because we are calling RB as our Q. So this reaction Q, which is RB, is being shown. You can readily imagine that if this drawing and this drawing, these two drawings are superposed, if these two drawings are combined, compiled, you are going to get your original beam where one of the drawing shows Q equal to RB and the other drawing shows W, that is the applied UDL, the UDL acting over the entire span. So I repeat, this original indeterminate configuration I am assuming to be made up of two determinate beams, two determinate configurations, one with the load and one with the unknown reaction RB or Q, because we are calling Q means redundant. So that is going to be my approach. And then what is this? That also I am sure you must have readily guessed, that we are going through an elegant approach where instead of directly applying Q, that is instead of directly applying entire RB, I am first applying a unit load. What is the significance? Whatever displacement I am going to get corresponding to a unit load, that displacement we call as flexibility. We define flexibility, we calculate flexibility, that is our elegant approach. So I assume, I hope that you have understood what is happening here, and of course you will understand better when I introduce all these terms and discuss all these calculations. But the whole idea is that indeterminate beam we convert into a couple of determinate beams. Their superposition, their compilation simply gives me original indeterminate configuration. And now let's see what we are writing. Redundant reaction we have already chosen as RB upwards, and that we are calling as Q. Next I am writing released beam with loads. That means now after dividing the original beam into two determinate beams, my focus is this particular diagram. And here you are observing that because of UDL there is this deformation in the beam. B point has gone down to B prime, and that particular deflection I am defining as dQL. What is this notation? That is what I have expressed here. dQL is displacement corresponding to redundant due to loads on the span. Capital D stands for displacement. Q stands for corresponding to that redundant, and L stands for loads on the span. Try to understand, my redundant force is RB. It is not a couple movement, it's a force. And as we discussed a couple of minutes back, corresponding to force, the displacement is deflection, translation. So what I am observing, if RB is my redundant, corresponding to RB, this particular deflection is my displacement under consideration. So though there is some theta B here, there is going to be some slope here, but I am not focusing upon that slope at all. If it is couple movement, I will focus upon slope. If it is force, I am focusing upon deflection. That is why this BB prime deflection and not the slope I am calling as dQL, and the meaning is clear here. Displacement corresponding to redundant due to loads. So I have defined it, dQL. Then I go ahead with released beam with Q is equal to 1. So this is very interesting. As I said just now again, that instead of directly applying this RB or Q, whatever you may call it, first we apply unit load. When I apply unit load, whatever is the corresponding deflection, again it is going to be BB prime deflection, not slope at B prime point, because my applied unit action is that of force. My displacement under consideration is that of deflection and not slope, and this deflection I am going to call as flexibility, because flexibility is the displacement corresponding to unit action. So it is a displacement corresponding to unit action, so I am calling it F. That is how I am describing this diagram. Released beam with Q is equal to 1. By the way, this determinate structure with loads, this released structure with loads, we call as capital M diagram, and those notations we are later on going to use in our calculations. Similarly, the diagram showing application of a unit load is called as small m diagram. So capital M diagram, small m diagram. If our degree of static indeterminacy is 2, 3, 4 likewise, then we may have M1, M2, M3, many more diagrams with unit loads acting at different locations. All that we will be seeing later when we are slightly advanced over our discussion of flexibility method. So remember, released structure with loads called as M diagram, released beam or released structure with unit value of redundant force called as small m diagram. And now, this is what I have written. F is flexibility, whatever we discussed just now. It is displacement corresponding to and due to unit value of redundant Q as we are observing in that particular diagram. And then I have shown this diagram, released beam with Q is equal to RB. That means instead of applying unit value of RB, now I am applying full value of RB as is the original case. Whatever is the original RB, whatever RB we are expecting to have in original beam, original configuration, that full value Q or RB I have now applied. Why have I shown the displacement here as F into Q? The arithmetic is very simple. Because of unit load, if I get a displacement of F, because of Q, I will get displacement of F into Q or Q into F. Because of 1 newtons, if F is my displacement, because of Q newtons, my displacement will be Q into F or F into Q. That is why this displacement I have shown as F into Q. So I am sure this diagram and this diagram you have understood why this is called as F, because load is 1. Why this is called as F into Q? Because when one load becomes Q newtons, the corresponding displacement will become F into Q or Q into F. That is rather straightforward. Finally, I come to the given indeterminate beam. That means again I am referring to this particular drawing, and here also I am defining one notation, that is dq. What is dq? Displacement corresponding to redundant q in original configuration, and I have written it equal to 0. It is displacement corresponding to redundant q or RB in original beam. Try to understand, when this beam is loaded, when this propped cantilever is loaded, this is how it is going to deform. This is how it is going to deflect. There will be 0 slope, 0 deflection here. There will be 0 deflection here, and some unknown slope theta b will be there. However, here I am writing dq is equal to 0. I am not writing it as theta b. Again, for the same reason that my redundant is a force RB. So corresponding to RB, I have to look for what is the deflection in B, not what is slope in B. And very clearly for this propped cantilever, there might be some slope theta B, but there won't be any delta B. There won't be any deflection at B point. That is why I am saying dq, which is displacement corresponding to redundant q, which is our RB, in original configuration, in original given problem, and that I have directly equated to 0, it is not existing. And now, what methodology I am applying here, or what superposition I am carrying out here, please observe what have I said. This particular configuration is supposed to be made up of this plus this. When I compile this diagram and this diagram, understand, you ignore for the time being now this middle diagram, because this has been only used to express flexibility, that's all. Our actual superposition is this drawing and this drawing. So what am I going to say? If this configuration is this plus this, then this deflection of B point and this deflection of B point, their summation should be equal to deflection in original B point, that is 0, that is dq. I repeat, this configuration is this plus this, superposition, or we are splitting this beam as this case plus this case. If that is true, it should be true for every reaction, every slope, every deflection, every action and every consequence. When I say this case is this plus this, there are no exceptions. It is applicable to each and every parameter. So that is why I am saying, if this is equal to this plus this, then this deflection in B point and this deflection in B point, when I add them, I should get deflection in my original beam, and which is 0. This is precisely what I have written here in superposition equation or compatibility equation. Why am I calling it compatibility? Because it is an equation between displacements. It is an equation between the possible displacements the beam is undergoing under various constraints. For example, there is no roller support here, it's a cantilever, so it can deflect. Same is the case here, it's a cantilever subjected to Q, it can deflect like that. This is zero slope deflection, this is zero slope deflection, but these deflections are possible. So I am writing an equation in deflections or displacements, and this particular left hand side is 0 because it corresponds to this prop where deflection is not possible. So it is equation between all deflections, and that's why I am calling it as compatibility equation, or a generalized term, superposition equation. And what am I saying? I am just saying that this deflection dq is equal to this deflection dql plus this deflection f into q. So simple, so straightforward. Superposition or splitting resolution. So that's what I have written. dq is equal to dql plus f into q. And then next step I am showing substitutions. dq is 0 as we discussed here, that dq, which is the deflection in original beam, it has to be 0 because of prop. So that 0 I am directly substituting here. And as far as dql and f is concerned, q is rb, that is what we have written here, q is rb. But as far as dql and f, these calculations are concerned, those calculations I have shown here from unit load method. This unit load method, or very similar Castigliano's theorem, we have studied in our previous course, that is Structural Analysis 1. However, I will quickly, naturally of course, revise it here, and that is the reason why I have not written standard results for DQL and FQ. Actually, for a cantilever beam subjected to UDL, or for a cantilever beam subjected to point load at free end, we directly have standard results for deflection, but I am not using them because simultaneously we are doing a revision of unit load method. So see how have I applied this method. I start with a simple table. The heading I have given is determination of parameters, and we are going to find how much is DQL and how much is flexibility F. So what is the table about? My columns are span, origin, limits, M. Naturally I am talking about this particular diagram, and capital M stands for bending moment expression in capital M diagram, and small m again it is bending moment expression in small m diagram. And now let's see the substitution. For example, we have only one span. This is a propped cantilever. When I remove the prop, when I convert it into a released structure, determinate structure, I have only one span, that is A to B or B to A. So I have written span BA. Then conveniently, I am assuming right end to be my origin, that is B is the origin. What I mean by I am assuming B to be the origin, it is like this. In the span BA, I am assuming this section XX at a distance of X from origin. Check this please. From origin B, assuming B as my reference, my beginning, at a distance small x, I am assuming section XX and I am expressing bending moment, which is of course going to be W into x squared by 2, and that to hogging means negative. So that is what we have written here. M, that is in this particular diagram, released beam with loads, my bending moment at a section at a distance x is going to be hogging Wx square by 2. And then I have written small m, that means I am looking at this particular diagram where we are trying to define our flexibility. Again, I am showing section XX at an arbitrary position x, at a variable position x from origin B. This I am calling as XX, and I am trying to define bending moment. This load is 1, unity. That's why we are calling this as flexibility. So because of 1, bending moment about this section will be 1 multiplied by x, and it is going to be sagging. That is what I have written here, 1 multiplied by x, which is equal to x, simply. Limits I have written because there is only one span, so the x variable is going to change from 0 to capital L. As I move this section over the entire span, it will take up least value 0 and highest value L. So those are the limits of my integration. And now I have two expressions, dqL. How do I calculate this particular deflection? So using unit load method, I am able to write it is integral 0 to L, capital M, small m with respect to x upon EI. This is our unit load method. Those who are not remembering these expressions, they may for the time being learn these expressions by heart, but whenever you find time, please go back and see that you are understanding the fundamentals involved. Then only you will feel happy to apply it here. So I repeat, dqL, that is this particular displacement, I am going to find using unit load method as integral mm upon EI with respect to x, that is integral 0 to L mm dx over EI. So I simply substitute. I take 1 upon EI outside, modulus of elasticity and second moment of area, they are going to be constant. So they are coming out of integral sign. Inside I have m into dx. This is my m, this is my small m. So their product I have shown, negative wx squared by 2 into x with respect to x. Solve this integration, you are going to get minus w L raised to 4 upon 8 times EI. This is the standard result of the deflection in the free end of cantilever under UDL acting over entire span. But anyway, we have derived it here, and this is a revision for us of unit load method. Next I am trying to find this particular F. How much is the flexibility, how much is this deflection, and for that also again I am using unit load method, and I am writing F is equal to integral 0 to L mm dx over EI. here I had capital M, small m. Here I am simply going to have small m upon ei with respect to x. Again ei, which is constant, taken outside the integration sign, m into m. That means I have to multiply this parameter by itself 2 times. So it is going to be x into x with respect to x, integral x square, which will be x cube upon 3, and when I substitute limit 0 to L, I am getting L cube upon 3 times ei. That is how we calculate dql, that is how we calculate flexibility F using unit load method. And now we come to substituting these values into our superposition equation or our compatibility equation. dq, that is deflection corresponding to RB in original beam, is 0. So I am writing here 0. dql, that means this deflection which we have calculated as negative WL raised to 4 upon 8 times ei, and F into Q, out of which F we have calculated as L cube upon 3 ei, and for Q I am substituting RB. This is one equation in one unknown RB, so I directly get my first answer. RB is equal to 3WL upon 8 vertically upwards. Once I get my redundant, see, it's a force method. I started with redundant force as RB, and then I have been able to find my first answer as RB, the value of that redundant, as 3WL upon 8 vertically upwards. The moment I get this particular answer, I simply consider FBD of the same beam, fixed support. This is the prop support or exterior roller support. This reaction which was unknown here, now I know, so I am writing it as 3WL upon 8. Simply apply sigma m about A equal to 0, you will get MA as WL squared upon 8, and simply apply sigma Fy equal to 0, you will get this reaction as 5WL upon 8. Great! You know all the unknown reactions. You can directly go for SFD, you can go for BMD, you can draw, you can determine whatever you want for this beam. So great, this is our flexibility approach, and as you are observing that given beam we release and convert into a couple of determinate beams, one determinate beam showing loads and other determinate beam showing reactions. Superpose them, you get your answers, and to find out these displacements either due to loads or due to unit value of your redundant, you are using nothing but unit load method. Your dql is integral mm dx over ei, and your flexibility is integral small m dx over ei. So in next lecture we will try to understand what is the flexibility coefficient. Once that is understood, we will go ahead with solving more involved problems having degree of static indeterminacy 2, 3, then sinking of support, how to handle overhang, and then frames, non-sway frames, sway frames, etc. Thank you very much. Hope you have understood, and see you soon in the next lecture with more involved numerics.